Owens could create with. Another one that just popped into my mind, how about Kevin Owens and The Rock? Can you imagine The Rock dropping a promo on the microphone face-to-face in a confrontation with Kevin Owens and some of the funny things The Rock would come up with to say about Kevin Owens and what Kevin Owens would probably say back to The Rock? I mean, we've seen The Rock in promos with the likes of The New Day and Rusev, but think about The Rock and Kevin Owens, because Kevin Owens is the perfect guy for The Rock to throw insults back and forth with, and I think that would really create something special for Kevin Owens because it would allow Kevin Owens to be in even more main events than what he is right now. Just last Monday on Raw, that incredible main event between himself and Dean Ambrose, that was the last match that I thought would be given the main event in the UK tour of Raw when they were touring Europe. I didn't think that Dean Ambrose versus Kevin Owens would be the main event. Probably it had something to do with the lack of superstars probably on the tour, but the thing is, I thought it was a great way of elevating both the careers of Kevin Owens and Dean Ambrose, and that's why I believe that wrestlers like Kevin Owens need to be taken far more seriously, because this is not the last time we will see Kevin Owens in the main events of international tours, because we're going to be seeing Kevin Owens in the main events of a lot of international tours up and coming, probably before the end of 2016 at the latest. And after seeing this match with Dean Ambrose this past Monday on Raw and hearing about the match between Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn for Payback on May 1st, which is less than 2 weeks away now, I think this is incredible. Having wrestlers face each other who have history from their time in Japan on the independent circuit, it's incredible. And I think it's a great way of having history repeat itself, but history that we want to see repeated because we've seen it before on the independent circuit, but never seen it on the major and grander stages. So at least now with Kevin Owens versus Sami Zayn, it's a great way of not only having Kevin Owens go on to have greater things happen for him, but it's also a great way for Sami Zayn to really stand out with probably a big victory over Kevin Owens at the pay-per-view, and a way for Sami Zayn to be taken far more seriously, just as Kevin Owens has been being taken far more seriously by a lot of people who just couldn't stand Kevin Owens when they first saw him. When I first saw Kevin Owens defeat names like John Cena and compete in matches with the likes of Randy Orton, I said to myself, Kevin Owens has a very promising future, and it's a future that we cannot go on any longer without recognizing, and I still stand to that. I said that last year about Kevin Owens. I wasn't almost instantly a fan of Kevin Owens, but I knew he was going to be someone who was going to be something really special in professional wrestling, and someone who a lot of people should be talking about more in the way of positive reviews, because I found a lot of people didn't really have a whole lot to say about Kevin Owens when talking about a future for him, because a lot of people were fans of people like Dean Ambrose and Roman Reigns, especially Dean Ambrose. I mean, there were more fans of Dean Ambrose out there than were ever given credit for, and I wish I could say the same thing about people like Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens. Yeah, it's going to take some time for Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn to have just as many fans and followers as the likes of Dean Ambrose and Roman Reigns or even Brock Lesnar and The Rock. But the thing is, in time, more and more people are going to become fans of people like Kevin Owens and notice them for what they are doing, and that is doing their job very well. If you notice Kevin Owens for having done anything, you should notice him for doing his job very well, because he's paid to be on the microphone and getting on our nerves, just like Seth Rollins last year. A lot of people were annoyed over the fact Seth Rollins was champion, and he was coming out saying he was going to be champion for a very long time. Because of his injury, obviously he wasn't champion for a very long time. It was just a blemish on the road of WWE's success with Seth Rollins having to cough up the championship the way that he did. But if not for that injury, probably Seth Rollins would have went long past 200 days as champion and probably still would be champion. So I think that Kevin Owens, if you want to create somebody in the absence of people like Seth Rollins, you have not been presented with more of a perfect opportunity to do that with Kevin Owens. And if it's supposed to be about creating stars of the future, then Kevin Owens is your guy to create for the future, because he's someone who's going to be there for a very long time. It wouldn't surprise me none if Kevin Owens was there for probably 10, 15 years and went on to win more championships than he's already won in his career, because he's won a lot of championships. And here's the thing, it hasn't even been 1 year since Kevin Owens debuted, and that tells me a lot about Kevin Owens' future, because if you can win championships like the Intercontinental title and be in main events with Dean Ambrose and Sami Zayn as much as what we've seen Kevin Owens, obviously Kevin Owens is doing something and impressing somebody backstage, because if he wasn't impressing somebody or doing everything right, Kevin Owens wouldn't be in these main events of international tours. Because here's the thing about international tours in the UK and Canada and different places of the world. The international tours are looked at as significant land points land points in a wrestler's career where you want to get to. And I think that, international tours being such pivotal points and land points for professional wrestlers to land to in their careers and get to, I think that if you can perform on those stages and on those tours at the level of people like Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn or a Shawn Michaels or an Edge, that says a lot. And that's what people like Kevin Owens are doing right now. They've been on more than one main event for international tours in the past, and I think these are some of the first that we're going to be seeing for Kevin Owens, and not the last time that we're going to be seeing Kevin Owens in the main events of these international tours. Being in the main events of international tours definitely paves the road to success even more. And let me just say this, after that incredible ladder match that we saw Kevin Owens compete in with over 6 wrestlers challenging him for his Intercontinental title, going in as the defending champion and coming out on the losing end, although he came out on the losing end, he did have an incredible effort to retain the Intercontinental title, and a lot of people thought that Kevin Owens was going to retain in this ladder match because of the names that he was faced with in this ladder match. But the thing was, even though Zack Ryder came out of the match as Intercontinental Champion, The Miz went on to defeat Zack Ryder shortly after winning the title at WrestleMania, with the return of Maurice obviously being a huge influence behind The Miz winning the Intercontinental title and promoting Miz TV the way he has in the fallout of WrestleMania. But here's the thing, I think that Kevin Owens performed great in this match, and I think that something far greater is planned for Kevin Owens. There's got to be something behind Kevin Owens losing the Intercontinental title the way that he did and not regaining it, never having received a rematch for the Intercontinental title. Another great match that I saw recently with Kevin Owens was Kevin Owens and Cesaro over who should be the Intercontinental Champion and who should be the number one contender for the Intercontinental title. The thing was, Kevin Owens again didn't get his rematch for the Intercontinental title, but with not getting the rematch for the Intercontinental title, it leads me to believe even more so with a loss to Cesaro in an incredible match that went over 20 minutes and won a couple of commercial breaks. That told me that something bigger and far greater is planned for Kevin Owens. What it is, I don't know. And if it's not a championship, I have to say that it's going to be the Money in the Bank briefcase because of the names that have won the briefcase in the past. Seth Rollins a couple of months ago won the briefcase. He went out and cashed it in. And I think that one of the things that's going to happen for someone like a Kevin Owens is possibly winning that briefcase. And that's something you can bet on. You can bet your last dime on the fact that Kevin Owens will be the Money in the Bank briefcase winner, if not the champion. And that will be the way. That will be what Kevin Owens uses to be taken far more seriously. And let me say this, the championships that Owens has won in his career may not be looked at as a lot by wrestling fans, and he still has a long way to go. But the thing is, these are the first of many championships we are going to be seeing Kevin Owens win. I like the whole idea of how he's paid to come out and get on our nerves. I know it gets on my nerves. I will admit that too, and I'd probably like to see someone else rather than Kevin Owens being Intercontinental Champion. But you can say what you want about this guy. This guy is in a position because he deserves to be in the position that he's in, and it has nothing to do with myself being a Canadian and playing favoritism when it comes to Canadian wrestlers, because I have said to you on this radio show that I am not a fan of people like Bret Hart and Chris Jericho. I never will be a fan of people like Bret Hart and Chris Jericho. It's just that Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn are some of the exceptional few Canadian wrestlers who have come along in a really long time, who I find to be extremely entertaining, very fun, very unpredictable. And as I said earlier about Kevin Owens, that's the thing about Kevin Owens that gets me all the time, is how unpredictable this guy is. When you least expect Kevin Owens to do something, he's the one who turns around and changes the complexity and the direction of a storyline or something pivotal happening in professional wrestling. And that is incredible, and that's something that he deserves all the credit in the world for having done, because when Kevin Owens is turning the heads of a lot of people and getting people talking, there are people who should be getting people talking, like Dean Ambrose and Chris Jericho, who obviously aren't. I mean, putting Dean Ambrose and Chris Jericho in the main event of Monday Night Raw recently, that really didn't tell me a lot, because we've seen Chris Jericho before in the main events with a lot of people. Obviously, it's a way of elevating Dean Ambrose after a loss to Brock Lesnar at WrestleMania, and what was an incredible match. But the thing is, Chris Jericho and Dean Ambrose has nothing on something like Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn, because it's two new wrestlers who are just merely scratching the surface of what they have yet to accomplish. When you're talking about someone like Chris Jericho, there's really no comparison, because Chris Jericho's won every championship multiple times, over 20 championships in his career, which really says a lot. A total combination of over 40 when himself and the Big Show were a tag team. So the same thing could be said if the Big Show was in this program rather than Chris Jericho. I mean, they won so many championships. There's really no comparison to Ambrose and Jericho when you're talking about Zayn and Owens, because Zayn and Owens are people who you want to be taking seriously, far more serious than what they are now. And the perfect way of doing that is having a program based off their history, like Gallows and Anderson and AJ Styles from Japan, with Roman Reigns. I really appreciate that because it's different, and we need to get this point of a reprieve, a point that we've been having to get to for a very long time. So at least it's something worth talking about, and I think that Kevin Owens is someone who deserves to be taken far more seriously than what he is right now, and I can only hope that wrestling fans are doing what I've been preaching about people like Kevin Owens and writing about from my column in this corner with Jonathan Clarke. And just to give you a heads up, I will be running a column on the future that I see for Kevin Owens in the coming weeks on my website, so make sure you check back for that, and listen to this audio archive, of course, in the radio form and on YouTube to kind of coincide with everything that I've been saying about Kevin Owens. And if you have a thought, you can get in on the conversation, of course, in the comments of this video on my channel at Jonathan Clarke 22, which you can subscribe to. You can follow me on Twitter at Jonathan Clarke 1, and you can subscribe to my conversation and discussion on both Google Plus and my Facebook page at HEW Entertainment. Let me know what you think of people like Kevin Owens. It is time for KO Mania and possibly Kevin Owens to take over, and that is something you can bet your last dime on. I believe this to be true. Even though I'm not the biggest Kevin Owens fan in the world, he's someone who deserves to be talked about by a lot of radio show hosts and columnists who probably aren't giving Kevin Owens the time of day or talking about him as much as what they probably should be. But Kevin Owens is every bit of the word that he says he is, a prize fighter and somebody who has a very promising future in professional wrestling, and that is something that is guaranteed. And obviously people like Shane and Vince McMahon see that, and obviously Triple H and Stephanie see that too, with how many times we see Kevin Owens showing up, getting in the faces of all these big name wrestlers like John Cena, having defeated them, and keeping on winning in the main events. And at the end of the day, as long as you're getting zeros at the end of these checks and getting numbers for WWE, Vince McMahon has only cared about numbers, and if Kevin Owens gets him those numbers, Kevin Owens is not going anywhere anytime soon, and someone who